My husband walks in.
Okay, we're live again. I'm delighted to be joined by Corinne, who some of you will have seen earlier, gave an amazing presentation all about her business and how she's adapted during the lockdown, and how she's, I think, emerged stronger off the back of it. So thank you for joining us for this.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure. I look back at the film actually, and I'm a perfectionist, so I noticed all the little mistakes I made. But I'm just getting my head around iMovie, which is quite an amazing app, really. Yeah. So I hope people enjoyed it.
Well, looking at the comments, they did, and I did. I mean, I knew it would be good, but when it came through last night, because I know you were working on it late last night. So I was up late last night. I downloaded it, but I didn't watch it until first thing this morning. But I messaged you about it this morning. I loved it. I thought it was, honestly, I thought it was really beautiful and uplifting, and put a big smile on my face when I watched it. And also,
thank you, Paul.
Maybe it was because it was late at night, but you seemed, it was so relaxing as well.
Yes. I was trying to have energy, because my daughter, she's been in performing arts since she was like 4, so she's really good at performance, and I was trying to get some tips off her, but for some reason I just had this kind of very chilled sort of delivery,
It calmed me down this morning.
Good. I am glad. And I wrote 3 pages, and I thought, how am I going to memorize all of this, And when I don't have a script, I tend to say a lot, because I've done it on stories when I'm doing stories, and you've got to be really spontaneous. I told you my husband would come in at the moment that we do the live, and here he is. So yeah, I wrote a script for it, and I want to say thank you for asking me to do it, because I think that for me, I'm learning about how to put myself out there. It's not my comfort zone at all. Being in front of a camera, I'm always behind it. And 2020 has definitely been the year where I've sort of started to talk about who I am and what I do much more, which is something that I've been encouraged to do when I did the it's now the NatWest Accelerator program, but when I did it, it was the what was it called, Paul?
Entrepreneurial Spark.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah, that's when I did it, and they were saying, you're the USP. You've got to get in front of the camera, or you've got to tell your story. Yeah. And I just found that terrifying, really. And we live in a world where people overshare all the time, don't they, about their personal lives and stuff like that, because it gets so much engagement. And that really, I found that quite challenging. But I think more recently I've found ways of talking about myself where I still retain my privacy, but I get to talk a bit more about who I am.
Yeah, no, that's good. I don't know if you saw, but Tim Elliott shared a presentation from him earlier today, and it's all about what's your story. It's only a 10-minute.
Oh, I'm going to have a look at that.
Yeah, watching, because that's basically what it's about. It's like tapping into what your unique story is and your journey, and how you articulate that to reinforce what you're doing as a business. Because, yeah, you're right. I mean, I am quite visible, I suppose, online, but I don't share everything. I keep my personal private life offline, but like I might touch into a little bit. I think in Instagram I'm going a bit more behind the scenes, kind of books that I'm reading or places I'm going, but I never share photos of my kids actually on Twitter or Instagram or anywhere except Facebook, where it's friends. But up until this year, all of my social media has been business. It's just been startup business, very consistent along those lines. But I'm just playing around a bit more with Instagram and maybe TikTok after seeing the video. And
yeah, I think you'll love TikTok.
You think?
I mean, TikTok, it's entertaining, but it's also interesting to see how other businesses are operating on there. Some of them are just uploading films. But I'm interested in the ones that are being a little bit more creative. And I've not become TikTok famous or anything like that, and I don't really have any aspirations to. But I think it's interesting because actually one of the features on Instagram stories that you can't access as a business account is you can't access music. And I love music, you know, music is just kind of like, that's what I put on when I'm designing and things like that. But through TikTok, you can. So you can take sounds and you can use them. And I don't know if that's going to change. It might change. My cousin works for Facebook and he said that's probably going to have to change in the future. But actually right now, I could put Frank Sinatra on the back of one of my, you know, and my demographic love that kind of music, you know, like crooners music and stuff. But I can also put some Sam Fender on there because I love Sam Fender. So, you know, you can really play around with it massively. And it actually has helped me think about sharing the behind the scenes of my business and let people see how much effort goes in, you know, to making that final design or packing up that product. I just got a 5-star review on Trustpilot, and the customer was so lovely because she noticed all the effort, you know. She noticed all of the way I packed it, the little note that I put in, and, you know, all of the different little details that I as a customer would like to see, you know, if I had, you know, purchased a product from a small business. And what I started to realize as well, as a design-based business, if I didn't put myself at the forefront and start talking about who I am, then Powder Butterfly could quite quickly become a brand that was in competition with M&S or someone like that. And I haven't got their marketing budget. I haven't got, you know, their sales team and all of the kind of huge amounts of, I don't know, the huge amount of money they have behind their brand. So in order for people to understand that this is a small business run by one person who does everything, I needed to start talking about that. Definitely doing it on social media, not quite so much on the website, but that's the next phase, is to start making short films for the website, and hopefully people start to see more of the behind the scenes with the business.
No, I get that, because I mean, I can understand why until recently you haven't done that, because you are an artist and a designer and a creative, so like the products, that's your output and that's the focus. But you are the creative, you're the one who's doing that. So to me that is interesting as well. I want to know who is behind these products, and when having met you and spoken to you, like, I'm even more interested and excited by all the stuff that you do. So as opposed to some faceless organization where you just think, oh, maybe that's just done by a team of people or a factory or something like that. But there's the craft and the thought that goes into it is much more appealing. To me, and probably, well, there will be many people that are drawn to that as well. So if you can bring your behind the scenes and your personality through social media, then that's great.
Yeah, and I hope to be able to show how things are made a bit more as well. We've just started to do that, because I mean, that for me is the most exciting part of the business. I mentioned in the film that I love knowing how things are made, and seeing how they're made is really great as well. You know, that opportunity to sort of a lot of the manufacturers that I work with aren't on the high street. You wouldn't be able to buy what they do necessarily from M&S, because M&S will import from China. They will produce some British goods and they're usually marked as made in Britain. But small companies like mine give consumers access to those smaller factories that you get in the UK, or individual artisans who are doing an amazing job. And for me, that's really exciting as well, just to see, you know, what's out there. You know, there's so many great makers and great British manufacturers.
Yeah, I've noticed you're doing LinkedIn a lot more as well, aren't you? Am I just noticing more, because you seem to be sharing a lot more on LinkedIn about not just about yourself, but about things that are relevant or of interest to you, and kind of like in a commentary style.
Yeah.
You're putting your kind of thoughts on it, and it does stand out, because
Does it?
I'm not aware of anyone else that's really doing it the way you're doing it. So
Thank you. That's good to know. It's really interesting because I've set up this community interest company, and I've realised that I have all these skills, whether they be in art, design, creating products for charities, creating corporate gifts, art installations, and I'm interested in fusing all of them together. So more recently, I've been looking at things that are going on in the Northeast, like really fantastic things that are happening, but also areas where there's going to be need, and sort of identified the high street as needing some support. And so that's why I've been trying to vary the LinkedIn posts and putting on things that are really uplifting, but also areas where there's initiatives going on that might be helping the high street. And I've been connecting with Graham Salt, who is he's a bit of a high street guru, really. And we've been just talking about the potential for a couple of art projects that would happen on the high street. But LinkedIn is a really great space, isn't it? Because you can meet so many different people, and you can get quite high up the food chain very quickly. I did a post on Ghetto Golf, which is on Holt's Yard, and it didn't go viral, but a lot of people were really interested. So they've invited me to go there on Thursday and do a bit of social media for them, which I'm more than happy to do because it's a Northeast business. And it looks like so much fun. You've been, haven't you?
I went a few weeks ago. It's amazing. It's so well done. The way, so obviously 18 holes, but each one is, you will absolutely love it. I mean, it's a bit naughty, obviously. It's like over 18. Like it is. It's outrageous in places, but it's so much fun, and you will have a really good time. And it looks amazing on photos, obviously. So
yeah, I can feel a good TikTok video coming on, Paul.
There'll be a few. So no, but you're right. I mean, LinkedIn as well. So I did a panel discussion recently, and I've done a few recently. But what I find, a lot of creatives, a lot of designers only have stuff on Instagram. They don't use Twitter. They don't use LinkedIn. Some often don't use Facebook. They just use Instagram, and I can understand why, because it's obviously a very visual platform. But Instagram's full of designers and creators, right? But I say to them sometimes, if you go somewhere like LinkedIn and you share some of your content on there, you're really going to stand out. And there's a lot of decision makers and people with budgets on LinkedIn. So why don't you post your stuff on there and grab their attention there? And that's potentially where your customers are. Still have your portfolio on Instagram, obviously. So
I agree. You're kind of you're preaching to the choir when you're on Instagram, aren't you? And the people you're potentially engaging with on there are influencers and customers. But I've did exactly the same thing in kind of face-to-face networking events. I go as an artist to private views, and there'd be artists there. There'd be my peers, my competition, essentially. And then I thought, actually, do you know what? I'm going to start going to Design Network North's, events. They'd have them was it the second Friday of every month, or maybe the last Friday of every month? And I met Terry McStay and started networking with business owners. And that got me into a completely different world of corporate gifts and bespoke gifts, but also potentially, working with companies on a more long-term basis. But I totally agree. LinkedIn is it's a wonderful place to be, because there's so much potential there, and potential clients, but also suppliers. I do get inundated with Chinese factory suppliers wanting to connect with me, and I don't dislike them at all. I've not got a problem. It's just that if you know anything about me, I won't buy it because I buy British. It's part of my brand. So it's just not a route I want to go down, really. You know, but LinkedIn is an amazing sort of space, and there's interior designers on there, there's CEOs, there's founders, there's engineers, architects, you know, kind of architecture and interior design for me are interesting areas because I could produce products for them, you know. So for me, I'm not going to find them necessarily on Instagram. And I think with Instagram, a lot of the time everyone's promoting what they do.
Yeah.
So it becomes the norm, like you said, whereas with LinkedIn, it's much more conversation based, I think, isn't it? People are more willing to engage with your posts on there. And you're an individual as opposed to a business. So there's an element of trust there. So yeah, I love LinkedIn. It's great.
Well, I've noticed that I think you're doing it really well. What you're doing on there, because I guess it just goes to understanding the differences between the different platforms, social media platforms, just like the difference between the events, the physical events as well. So some events, I would say to people, go to them to be amongst your peers more for the kind of support and kind of advice and from like-minded similar people. But then other events you go because that's where the suits are, that's where the people with the money are. So if you go as a techie or a creative or a designer or some sort of non-suit, you get to stand out and potentially win some work because people will notice if you go there. So
absolutely, yeah, 100%. And I think creatively, perhaps you have a different perspective when people are dealing with cold hard business every day. Sometimes in their feed, if they see something that lightens the mood a bit and makes them feel either entertained or, oh, that looks interesting, you know, then yeah, you're right, you're going to stand out more, aren't you, really? Pinterest has been interesting for me.
I always forget about Pinterest because it's not something I know a lot of people do obviously use it, but it's not something I've ever used as a user or sharing anything on it.
It's probably a bit of a vanity metric, but I've been on there actively pushing things because it was dormant. My monthly view reach was 22,000 and it was dormant at that. And over the last, I would say 6 weeks, it's gone up to 95,000. So by Christmas, I hope it'll be 100,000. It could be a vanity metric, though, because some of these numbers don't actually mean anything. But when you can see that actually when you're posting daily on a platform and you can see that kind of growth, then it does indicate that there might be some reason to stay on it. And I'm using Tailwind. So I've scheduled posts on Pinterest right up until the end of September, and then I've got to keep going. And with Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, I use Buffer. So I try and schedule my posts as much as I can, but it's a job in itself, social media. It really is.
Definitely.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to let you go in a minute because I know you're going to go and do the school run. But do you know who your audience on TikTok is, or like what? How are you approaching that? What are you doing?
There are a few children, but there's definitely customers. Yeah, I can sort of tell. There's a few customers that are seeing what I'm doing. But I take my TikToks and I put them on my stories on Instagram because you can share them onto stories, and that's how you can use the music and stuff like that. So it kind of helps me fill up my stories on Instagram when I'm really on it. If anyone has any questions about e-commerce, just please feel free to get in touch. Yeah, and what I would say,
comment underneath the video. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'll have a look at the comments in a mo. But also, I would say that I am working with a new team who are doing our sales and marketing strategy for Powder Butterfly, and we had quite a successful campaign where we built our mailing list by nearly 600 emails in a week. So and they got sales as well. So if there's anyone who really wants to push it on e-commerce and through Facebook specifically, they should get in touch.
Okay, awesome. Yeah,
All right.
lovely. Really good talking to you always, and thanks again for doing the brilliant video earlier. All right.
Thank you, Paul. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.